Recently, a surprising incident left me quite shaken. My mother-in-law, in an unforeseen and unsettling act, took my passport and deliberately burned it. The passport quickly caught fire, reducing it to ashes in mere moments. This act abruptly halted my plans for a vacation to St. Bees Island, leaving me in utter disbelief. As I confronted her, asking for an explanation, she simply smirked and coldly informed me that since I was a stranger in her eyes, I would not be traveling anywhere but staying home. Beside her, my husband only offered a grin, complicit in the deceit. Their cruel maneuver was shocking, though not entirely unexpected. However, their level of sneakiness was something I had not anticipated. They seemed to take pleasure in their scheme, sharing a laugh over their perceived triumph. At that moment, frustrated and needing to assert my identity, I reminded them of who I am. My name is Kayla, I'm 30 years old, and I'm a linguist. I study and teach languages at the university, a role that often takes me abroad for extended periods as I engage with different cultures and share my knowledge through my organization. This job requires me to travel frequently, often leaving me away from home for months. Before this job, I never envisioned marriage in my future. However, everything changed when I returned to my home country at 25 and met Peter, who would later become my husband. Despite the challenges posed by my career, which demands that I spend about half the year overseas, Peter and I maintained our relationship through constant communication via phone calls and emails. We got married when I was 27, and he has been incredibly supportive, even though our marriage involves long periods of separation. Today, as I make my way home from the airport, it's been 6 months since I last saw my husband. Despite the long flight and the draining events that unfolded with my passport, I'm filled with excitement rather than fatigue. I'm eager to reunite with Peter, stepping quickly towards what I hope will be a joyful reunion and perhaps a resolution to the recent turmoil caused by his family. After a long absence, I arrived home to find Peter not yet back, so I began to tidy up a bit. Although I always remind him to keep our place neat, I usually find it somewhat disarrayed. Normally, this would bother me, but today I decided to let it slide because I was simply too excited to see him again. As I busied myself in the kitchen, I heard the front door open. It was Peter. Overjoyed, I rushed to greet him with a warm, "Welcome home, Peter. It's so good to see you." His response was lukewarm. "Oh, hi, Kayla. You're back. Is that all? After 6 months apart?" I couldn't hide my disappointment. "We haven't seen each other in 6 months, Peter. Aren't you going to say you missed me?" He shrugged. "We've been doing this for a while, so I guess I'm used to it. I'm just really tired. Is dinner ready?" "Yes, it's ready. Let's eat." Dinner felt special, as eating with Peter after so many months apart usually would, but today was tinged with a bit of sadness. His attention seemed divided, constantly glancing at his phone. I couldn't help but express my frustration. "Hey, Peter, why do you keep staring at your phone?" He was dismissive. "There's nothing wrong, but you've been gone and we've stayed connected through calls and emails, right? There's nothing new to discuss." That hurt. "That might be true, Peter, but it's been a long time since we've been together. Shouldn't that count for something?" My tone sharpened with my growing frustration, which seemed to upset him. He stood up abruptly, placed his phone on the table, and glared at me. "You know what? You just came off a plane, but I'm exhausted from work. Just got it?" Stung, I retorted, "Hold on, I also came straight here after work. Don't talk to me like that." "I didn't ask you to rush. You chose to come home immediately," he replied coldly. His words stung, but I needed to make my feelings clear. "You don't have to say it like that. Despite everything, I missed you." At that moment, both of us paused, the weight of our words hanging between us. After months apart, I came home only to find the atmosphere chillingly tense. Peter's reception was colder than expected. As we sat down for dinner, he blurted out, "I'm just saying, I didn't ask you to rush home. If you're going to act like this, maybe you shouldn't come back at all. You're being annoying, Kayla." Frustrated, he slammed the table and stormed out of the room, leaving his dinner untouched. Alone and confused, I wondered to myself, why is he acting so cold? I had been eagerly anticipating our reunion, but it seemed I was the only one excited. What was the point of coming home early if it was only going to end in disappointment? Tears spilled onto the table as I sat there, the joy of our reunion overshadowed by a sinking feeling of dread. The next morning, the tension hadn't lifted. When I greeted him with a good morning, he gave me a frosty look and said bitterly, "I envy you. You get to relax at home all the time while I'm stuck working." That wasn't true, and I corrected him. "That's not accurate, Peter. I have a lot of work too. Summarizing our activities, preparing for the next training session. It's more work than you think." He dismissed my efforts. "Sure, but you can do it from home. I wish I had a job where I could take half the year off. You enjoy your time at home, princess." Stunned by his sarcastic tone, I watched as he left the house without another word. We had our share of arguments before, but he had never been this cutting. His sarcastic demeanor left me puzzled and worried about the growing rift between us. While I pondered over what might help mend our relationship, I busied myself with household chores, vacuuming, and changing the linens. Amidst this, my phone rang. It was my mother-in-law. With a sense of unease, I answered, "Hello, Kayla here." "Hi, Kayla. It's been a while. I heard you're back home and had a rough day yesterday." "Yes, that's right. And I also heard you upset Peter. He was quite angry." The call added to my confusion and worry, leaving me to question how I could bridge the gap that had formed between us since my return. During the phone call, my mother-in-law's suggestion caught me off guard. "Now that you're back, how about we plan a family trip?" she proposed. Before I could even process the idea, she continued, "I was talking with my husband about going to St. Bert's Island, and Peter mentioned he wanted to join us. You're used to traveling abroad, right? Could you help us with hotel reservations and other arrangements?" Her request was loaded. From her tone, it was clear she didn't actually relish the thought of traveling with me, but saw an opportunity to leverage my travel experience. My relationship with my mother-in-law had always been strained. She had never hidden her disdain for me. Ever since we first met at the wedding reception, her attitude had been consistently sarcastic. Even after 3 years of marriage, her views hadn't softened. When I was working abroad, she often sent me messages that stung. "How can you be a wife and stay away from home for months? If you don't take care of the house, I'd rather my son marry someone else. It was a mistake to let him marry you." These memories made me apprehensive about her proposal. It felt like I was being used to facilitate their travel plans, a task that seemed more appealing than enduring her usual critiques. I was frustrated with myself for my inability to decline, even though I recognized that I was being manipulated. A few hours later, Peter returned from work in a noticeably better mood than he had been earlier. He dropped his briefcase on the sofa, flashed a wide smile, and said, "Mom called, didn't she? We can go on a trip to St. B's." "Yeah, I heard," I replied cautiously. "But you're not thinking of turning it down, are you? Mom wants you to come with us," he pressed. His enthusiasm made it even harder to express my reservations. I understood his desire for me to be involved, but the dynamics made me uneasy. How could I navigate this situation without escalating tensions or feeling even more used? As the conversation about the family trip continued, I cautiously suggested, "Why don't you just go with your mom and dad as you originally planned?" The moment those words left my lips, Peter's attitude shifted dramatically. He clicked his tongue, and his voice took on a more threatening tone. "You need to understand your role here. The only time you're useful to us is when we're traveling." His words stung. "You don't have to speak like that," I protested. "It's true, isn't it?" he retorted, undeterred. "Anyway, you'll handle all the flight and hotel bookings, and everything should be in my name, as you probably know." "But Peter, you're going to pay for the whole trip?" I asked, trying to clarify our financial arrangement. "What are you talking about? We'll split the cost 50-50ths. It's a small price to pay to show respect to our parents," he argued, implying that my objection was disrespectful. "And what is that supposed to mean? If you've got time to lounge around at home, make the reservations now," he demanded. "This isn't right. I don't want to." I mumbled, my voice barely above a whisper. "What are you mumbling about?" he scoffed, grabbing a beer from the fridge and downing it in one gulp. Despite my inner turmoil and the unfairness of the situation, I felt cornered. Embarrassed and without a real choice, I proceeded to make all the arrangements for the flights and accommodations for the trip to St. Bert's Island, just as Peter and his mother had insisted. On the day of the trip, I was set to pick them up at my in-laws' house and head straight to the airport. But a few days before our departure, I found myself restless and unable to sleep. Late at night, I realized Peter wasn't beside me. I walked to the living room and overheard him on the phone. "It's okay, Mom. I'll be there first thing in the morning as planned. Please handle the passport issue anyway. Seriously, I'm looking forward to it. I'll make sure to introduce her to you," he said into the receiver. Hearing this, I was filled with a mix of emotions. What was supposed to be a family trip was turning into a series of commands and manipulations, and now there were secrets too. I stood there, unsure of how to confront this new revelation. When I returned home, Peter's conversation still echoed in my mind. He had mentioned a passport and introduced someone, and since he was speaking to his mother, I was sure it was my mother-in-law on the other end. There seemed to be hidden plans that I wasn't privy to, which made me uneasy about the upcoming trip. It was clear that something was being orchestrated behind my back, but I couldn't grasp the full extent of it. Resolved to remain vigilant, I prepared for our departure with caution. The day of our trip to St. Bert's Island finally arrived. I methodically packed both my carry-on and handbag, including items for my husband, ensuring we were ready for the journey. With everything set, Peter and I drove to my in-laws' house. As we approached, I braced myself, unsure of what awaited us, but ready to face whatever might come. Upon our arrival, it was only my mother-in-law who greeted us. "Oh, hi, Kayla. It's been a while. Good to see you. We're almost ready. I just need to grab a few things for the trip, so it might be a little while," she said, her tone casual but with a sense of urgency that raised my suspicions further. "Okay, take your time," I replied. Then she added, "Oh, and Kayla, could you bring the carry-on case from the other room? It's heavy, so please get Peter to help you." "Sure, I'll do that," I agreed, keenly observing the exchange of knowing glances between my husband and mother-in-law. I kept my passport securely in my pocket, an instinctual move born from the mistrust that had been building. As I followed my husband's directions and returned to the living room with the carry-on, I found my mother-in-law waiting with a mischievous grin. To my horror, she was holding my passport in her hands. "Now you can't go on the trip to St. Bert's," she declared with a smirk. "What do you mean? I'm going to burn this passport right now," she threatened. "What did you just say?" I reacted in disbelief, the gravity of her words sinking in. "I was just using you to handle the trip arrangements," she admitted callously. "You're a stranger here, so you'll be staying behind. Too bad." Her words struck me like a cold slap. The situation was far worse than I had imagined, and the betrayal cut deep. I realized I was not just an outsider in their plans, but a mere pawn in whatever game they were playing. The revelation left me reeling, unsure of how to respond to such blatant manipulation and deceit. In a sudden and shocking move, my mother-in-law stormed into the kitchen, lit a lighter, and set a passport ablaze in the sink. The document quickly caught fire, turning into black ashes before our eyes. As it was completely destroyed, she triumphantly declared, "We did it!" My husband joined in with a cheer. "Yeah, Mom, we made it." "No," I interjected. "It's just the three of us on this trip, right? We'll get to meet Peter's new girlfriend when we get back." "Yeah, I've already set that up," my mother-in-law replied nonchalantly. "We don't need this useless woman anymore," my father-in-law chimed in coldly. He then pulled out his cell phone and showed me pictures of himself with another woman, looking pleased with himself. "I'm not divorcing you for the sake of my reputation, but you'll be staying here while we go on our trip. When we get back, I'll move in with her and you can leave." My mother-in-law laughed mockingly at his words. Their expressions were full of malice. At that moment, I realized I no longer belonged in a family like this. I forced a smile and asked, "By the way, whose passport is that?" "What are you talking about? It's yours, of course. I took it out of your handbag," she said confidently. "My passport is right here," I said, holding up my actual passport from my pocket. "What? Why? It can't be," she stammered, her confidence faltering. I showed her my passport still intact. "Yes, it's my passport. See for yourself." The realization dawned on her face, pale with panic. "That's not possible," she muttered, her voice trembling. It seemed my mother-in-law had mistakenly thought she had taken my passport from my handbag. Her plans, driven by malice, had not involved checking the passport thoroughly before burning it. "Whose passport did I burn then?" she asked, her voice quivering with a mix of fear and confusion. "I guess it was your son's passport that was in there," I suggested. "You burned my son's passport?" she asked, horrified. My mother-in-law turned white as the gravity of her mistake hit her. The family dynamics, already strained, were now irrevocably shaken by her rash actions and the underlying schemes that had come to light. The moment my mother-in-law realized the passport she burned was her son's, chaos erupted. My husband, furious, lashed out at her. "What have you done? I told you to be careful. I only found one passport in her handbag. Who would have thought it belonged to me?" "I don't care. You didn't check properly, and now look what happened," he shouted. "You're saying it's my fault? If you had checked from the start, I wouldn't have made this mistake," she retorted, her voice rising in defense. Their argument escalated quickly, and they began blaming each other. Amidst the tumult, my husband turned to me. "Hey, Kayla, do something," but I was not about to be dragged further into their mess. "Seriously, who do you think you are telling me what to do? You cheated on me behind my back. How dare you both? You and your mother are despicable," I fired back. "Hey, who do you think you're talking to?" my husband snapped. "I'm talking to you and your awful mother. Don't think I'm just going to let this slide. You're going to pay me back for the affair and all the nasty things your mother has said to me. Be ready," I declared, my resolve hardening. Just then, my father-in-law appeared, drawn by the noise. "What's going on here? What are you doing?" he demanded. After I explained everything, he was livid. The planned trip was immediately canceled, and the fallout was severe. My mother-in-law faced a divorce, and my husband was disowned by his father and banned from returning home. I consulted a lawyer and proceeded with the divorce. I also demanded alimony from both my ex-husband and ex-mother-in-law, which they had to pay in one lump sum, along with covering the costs of the canceled trip to St. Nevis Island. Financially unprepared, they had to borrow money to meet these demands. In the end, my ex-husband, now living with his mother, found himself in a tough financial situation. He was also left by the woman he had an affair with. Meanwhile, I used the alimony money to move into a condo and start anew, embracing a life of independence. Free from cheating and mistreatment, I faced many challenges but emerged stronger. Now, I'm loving life, planning to continue my travels, learning about different cultures, and sharing my experiences with the world.
"And why should I have to pay?" I asked indignantly. "Don't ask why. Just keep paying and give us a break," my sister-in-law replied. It was as if she looked down on me, like I was just some obstacle in her way. "Look, if you understand, can you please just give me $1,000 right now?" she continued. I knew that if I gave in, things would only get worse, but I never expected what happened next. My name is Amara. My husband Colton and I live at my in-laws' house. My in-laws are nice to me and Colton is nice to me, so I feel I'm accepted. But not Juniper. She seems to see me as a threat. "Colton may be concerned about you, but I just don't care," she declares. My sister-in-law seems to dislike the fact that I'm younger than her. Everyone gets older, a fact which she despises. If I say anything or respond to her, she doubles down on me. So I'm powerless. "Oh, I'm sorry I broke your favorite mug," Juniper said with a grin. "What?" I exclaimed. Then I saw the mug I'd brought from my parents' house was completely shattered. "I didn't do it on purpose," she defended herself. But that's not even the point. I've been using that mug for a long time, and it's very important to me, and it was destroyed as a result of Juniper's harassment. I was so depressed that I told Colton about it that day. Everything I care about is going to be destroyed by her, I lamented. Colton became enraged when he heard this, but you know my sister is stubborn and self-centered, and she's always been. Juniper thinks she's the most important person in the house. Colton feels powerless to defy her, and it's not just Colton. His parents seem powerless to defy Juniper too. One day, as I accidentally glanced at her, Juniper snapped, "What exactly is your problem? Do you have an issue with me?" No, I have nothing to complain about, I hurried to reply, though my voice wavered, betraying the frustration I was trying to suppress. Even though we were glaring at each other, I was surprised to hear her say such a thing, but Juniper continued, "You really think I'm a moron, don't you? As if I'm some old woman who can't marry," she retorted, her voice laced with both defiance and hurt. "What? That's not what I think," I protested, raising his hands defensively. "It makes no difference to me whether you're married or not." But she was suddenly all paranoid. "Stop lying. I'm older than you, unmarried, and you make fun of me. It irritates me that you think of me that way," Juniper concluded. It was a nasty thing for Juniper to say, and it was all in her head. But then she unexpectedly added, "But it's okay because I'm getting married." "What? Really? Congratulations." I was confused. I was thinking, then what was all that yelling about? I suppose she just wanted to vent, but then I found out what Juniper really wanted. "So I want you to leave the house," she demanded, her voice firm and unwavering. What? I stammered, my eyes widening in shock. "Because if you're here, my husband can't live here, right? I don't even want to marry into his family, and I sure don't want to live with them, so we'll live here," my sister-in-law explained. I had no idea what she meant. She didn't want to marry into the family? I guess I could accept that, but I couldn't figure out why she was kicking me out. "Oh please, I'm already a member of this family," I said firmly. It was the first time I'd ever rebelled to her face. This enraged Juniper. "What? How dare you question me? You're my sister-in-law. You're so arrogant. This is why I despise young people. You have no sense of respect," she shouted, her voice laced with indignation as she looked me up and down with disdain. I thought it was more disrespectful of her to start yelling at me out of nowhere, but I couldn't say anything, so I just stood there and let her abuse me. My sister-in-law continued to insult me for the next few days. I hate to admit it, but I could not believe anyone would marry a person like her. My sister-in-law's wedding day finally arrived. "Remember what we talked about? You need to leave," Juniper said in a demanding tone. "Yes, I understand," I replied, packing my things and left my in-laws' house, feeling the weight of an uneasy farewell. Days passed, but then I got a surprise visit from my sister-in-law. She came to me, her face streaked with tears, apologizing in a way I hadn't expected. "Amara, what exactly is going on?" she said, visibly upset. "What? What's the problem? Why are you crying?" I inquired. "It's Colton. It's not just Colton, my parents. They're upset too. They claim you were taking care of the finances," she responded. "Actually, I'm a full-time career woman, not a full-time housewife. Because I work remotely, I'd always worked from home at my in-laws' house. Juniper didn't seem to understand how things worked. I was the one making money, the one supporting the household. Colton's a full-time house husband, and I left because I was so angry with you," I explained. Juniper flushed when I said this. "I'm not kidding. Please come back. Everyone blames me that you left. They blame me for making their life so hard," she begged. Whatever else I may have thought, I believed she deserved this. Why should I feel guilty when I only left because Juniper told me to? "I'd consider it if you beg. Get down on your knees and beg me," I said. "What? Come on, I would never do something like that. Think about your position," she replied. Juniper, it seemed, was the one who was confused about her position, and if she continued to speak to me that way, her situation would not improve. "Just so you know, Juniper, if you continue to act like this to me, I'm never coming back," I remarked. Juniper began to panic again when I said this. "What? Wait a second, why?" she asked. "Because you don't even seem sorry," I replied. Juniper acted like she had no idea what was wrong, like she didn't get that she couldn't treat people like this. She seemed completely convinced that she hated me from the bottom of her heart. Just come back. If you don't, my parents will be furious again, she insisted. And it was so obvious that she was only trying to get me to come back, because she didn't want her family to be angry with her. I was so stunned I couldn't even speak. I'm at a loss for words. At the very least, I won't be back anytime soon. In the meantime, go ahead and be irritated. I was tired of this and tried to cut the conversation short, but she said, wait a second, you're not done talking to me. Please just come back for a minute. There was no way I was going to return like that, as if we were just going to sit and have a cup of tea. She said whatever she wanted, without any regard for anyone's feelings. I have an idea, Juniper said, delighted. In any case, it's probably a bad idea, I retorted. You actually don't have to return after all, my sister-in-law added. Huh? I exclaimed. This was unexpected. I was thinking, so what will she say now? You don't need to go home. You simply transfer your funds. Everything will be fine that way, Juniper concluded. What? I exploded. She began to say some really ludicrous things. Just keep transferring funds. Why would I do that? I'm a genius after all. If you do that, my husband and I will be able to live with my parents without you, she continued. You're kidding, why would I do that? I asked, perplexed. Then Juniper's face turned bright red. Why are you doing this to me? It's my parents' home. You have no reason to be so arrogant. Juniper's expression was terrifying, as if she were a demon. It was as if she looked down on me, like I was just some obstacle in her way. And why should I pay? I asked indignantly. Don't question why. Just keep paying and give us a break, my sister-in-law replied. This was not only absurd, but also such narcissistic thinking. How could she be so self-centered? Look, if you understand, please can you just give me $1,000 right now? Juniper grabbed my hand as she said this. Please don't do this. It hurts, I cried out, but Juniper still didn't let go of her grip. Don't defy me, I'm the law, be my money machine, she demanded. I tried to call my parents, but they were out. I was thinking about what to do when I heard a voice. Amara, are you okay? To my surprise, Colton was there. Apparently, he'd found out that Juniper had come to his house and rushed over. What? Colton, why are you here? His sister asked. What are you doing to Amara, Juniper? What the hell are you doing? He exclaimed indignantly. Thanks to Colton, I was saved in the nick of time. She left because of you, Juniper, and you hurt her, my husband continued. What are you talking about? Amara left on her own. It's not my fault, she retorted. Until now, Colton had always been weak when it came to Juniper, but now I was very happy that he was worried about me and helping me in this crazy situation. What are you smiling about? It's your fault for leaving in the first place, Juniper snapped at me. I kept telling her she was the one who told me to leave. Sis, stop abusing Amara. I've kept quiet until now, but I won't let you get away with it anymore. Colton was really angry at Juniper. What the hell? You've been disobeying me since when did you become such a cocky little brother? Juniper was becoming more irrational and heated by the moment. What she was saying was so incoherent that she probably didn't even know what she was saying. You wait and see. I'm ordering Amara to keep transferring money to us. Now shut up, Colton, she commanded. When he heard this, Colton's face turned red, and he started yelling. What in the hell are you thinking? Who are you to say that to me? An epic sister and brother fight started right outside the house. Amara is my wife. You want my wife to keep transferring money to you? How much more insulting do you have to be? My husband snapped furiously. What? Why are you so angry? I don't understand, my sister-in-law said, bewildered. It's because you keep saying crazy things to Amara. I'm her husband, and I'm going to protect her, he explained. Colton, I can't believe you're sticking up for her. It's her fault. She got married before me. Also, she's so young and beautiful, his sister added. As Juniper's words grew more outrageous, I found myself regretting more and more that I hadn't left my in-laws' house long ago. This was all about Juniper's jealousy. I couldn't believe I'd been mistreated by this person, for such a stupid reason. You've got to be kidding me. When you compare yourself to others like that, you will always be ugly at heart, Colton said emphatically. Juniper was about to explode with anger. It was as if he'd read her mind. What? Don't be ridiculous. Whose heart is ugly? I really can't stand you. You both need to get out of my house. When she said that, Colton looked as if he had an idea. Yeah, let's do that just for the hell of it, he uttered. What? My sister-in-law tried to object. He took my hand and we started walking away. Wait a second. Where are you going? She exclaimed. Well, we're leaving Mom and Dad's, my husband said calmly. Huh? His sister uttered, confused. Mom and Dad will understand, but they'll need care soon, so you'll have to take care of them, Colton added casually. Naturally, Juniper began to protest. You've got to be kidding. My husband won't take care of them. Well, why don't you do it by yourself? Mom and Dad said they don't want me to do it. They want you to do it, he concluded. Why would they say that? My sister-in-law was perplexed. Because you're the eldest, her brother added. It seemed things were looking pretty bleak for Juniper. Juniper is not a caretaker, and she would not be able to care for her parents. From what I've heard, it seemed unlikely that her husband would be willing to help out either. Oh, Colton, please don't leave. You have to take care of Mom and Dad. Besides, we'll need your income too, she pleaded. How selfish can she be, I thought. Why not depend on your husband for your income? You've put Amara through so much trouble. I don't think that argument will work. Colton was talking without even looking her in the eye. It was as if he'd already given up on her. Don't say that. We're a family. We have to help each other. My sister-in-law disagreed. We have to help each other? But who's the one who's been acting selfishly? At least try treating our parents with some gratitude. Colton seemed really angry at what had taken place. He spoke plainly, but I could sense the anger in his words. Wait, please don't go. I don't want to be a caregiver. I just got married and now my marriage is going to get worse, Juniper lamented. Then Colton and I signed a contract for an apartment and we decided to live there. Juniper didn't have enough money to move out of her parents' house, so she stayed, and her husband and she are living there while taking care of her parents. Now her husband is angry with her, saying it wasn't supposed to be like this. He abuses her every day, and her spirit is worn out. Now she finally understands what I'd been subjected to every day. I'm now the mother of a child, and Colton and I live happily ever after.